I'm not going to take but a few minutes. I do want to note that I believe that Oregon is the only state to have produced 100% of its United States senators on behalf of the cause tonight. This is something Senator Merkley and I enjoy doing when there's an opportunity to speak for justice. And I want to reflect for a minute on how the day started, because I guess it was almost 12 hours ago, our Democratic leader, Senator Schumer, stood right there. I stood where I am, and he outlined the Schumer-Wyden proposal for the next steps on dealing with this crushing unemployment we've got in our country. 30 million people. I mean, the number is almost so large that the experts can't get their arms around exactly how many people are unemployed, but what we know is that every week it goes up far more than that kind of similar period during the Great Recession. And we talked about what's going to happen on July 31st. July 31st, if the Senate does not act, we're going to have a tsunami of evictions. We are going to have families, just as Senator Stabenow said, basically sitting in their living room, sitting in their kitchen, and trying to figure out how they're going to make ends meet that month. And without supercharged unemployment, without the SNAP benefits that Senator Stabenow is talking about, without the help Senator Brown is talking about with respect to housing and evictions, there are a lot of people who are just going to fall between the cracks. And I thought, it being 12 hours after we began this, that I might just connect the dots for a few minutes. In the face of a historic public health emergency, we know that millions of Americans have their health on the line. And because Donald Trump has failed to get the COVID-19 virus under control, we've now got jobs on the line. And now many people are being forced to choose between feeding their child or paying the rent to keep a roof over their head. So you've got housing, you've got health care, you've got employment, and we're trying very hard to be creative. I know my colleague from Michigan, hardly a day goes by when she doesn't talk to me about the benefit of work share, a creative way to make unemployment dollars stretch. And by the way, Senator Merkley talks about it almost as much as my friend from Michigan, because he feels very strongly about it. And so as we connect the dots, as we have over the last 12 hours, and we talk about housing and health care and unemployment, I also want people to understand that those challenges were serious last week and the week before, and we ought to put in context what we heard yesterday from Tony Fauci, who said that the trajectory as of right now is one where our country may possibly see 100,000 new cases a day. So let's picture what that means for the SNAP program and how hard Senator Stabenow's work is going to be, because we heard Chairman Roberts, and you all have worked very well and the like, and hopefully we can get that worked out, because I don't even want to begin to imagine how much hunger and unemployment and housing challenges we're going to face with 100,000 new cases a day. So the work that Senator Stabenow is doing is urgent business, and it really also brings us back to how can it be in a country as strong and good as ours, we got all these kids going to bed at night. In our home state, the state that Senator Merkley and I have the privilege to represent, 1 out of every 4 Oregonians worries about putting food on the table. And our Oregon Food Bank, run by the inimitable Susanna Morgan, is doing a fabulous job. But the fact is, and I was really struck by this, the Oregon Food Bank has told my office that demand for emergency food has doubled in Oregon over the past 2 months at Oregon Food Bank's 5 branches. And recently I was home, and whenever Senator Merkley and I are home, we try to get out and talk to a variety of community groups, and I was helping distribute food baskets. And I was struck because we were all being socially distant, and they were handing me the bags, and I was putting them in the back of the car, and I got a chance to have a little bit of a conversation with those people. And I was just stunned because it was clear that many of those people had never, ever had to, in their car, and the cars, Senator Stabenow, were backed up for blocks and blocks on the east side of our community where Senator Merkley and I both live. And they were all people who had not faced this kind of challenge before. And you looked at them and they looked at you, and you could see in their face that they never expected this, and particularly the seniors. My colleague has heard all the Gray Panther stories. Poor Senator Merkley's heard them 50 times. You've only heard them 25 times. But a lot of those seniors going through in their cars, it was clear also that was the big outing for the day. They didn't get really dressed up, but kind of, and the car was perfectly clean, and they came through and they wanted to visit. But you knew that without that food, they wouldn't have a chance to make it through the day. And what this comes down to is what Senator Stabenow is basically doing is being in the kind of tikkun olam business. That is a word, a phrase that Jews often use. It's about perfecting the world. And it's about the moral obligation we've got in America to do everything within our power to make sure that kids and families do not go hungry. So Susanna Morgan was real clear about the things that she wanted Senator Merkley and I to talk about on the floor of the Senate and make sure they got, out. She wants to make sure that people can get assistance through a regular EBT card. The Trump administration, of course, has pushed to impose strenuous work requirements that just don't make any sense, particularly in a public health crisis when workplaces can be dangerous. We want to expand ways to get food to SNAP participants, like home delivery and curbside pickup. We want to extend what has come to be known as the pandemic EBT through the summer and any future school closures. This is so important because even before the pandemic, I often would go to various kinds of programs run by community groups, and they'd be serving a lunch, and I would shoot baskets with kids for a bit, and then I would see the kids sort of drift away, and they would take at least 2 lunches, at least 2. And so I'd go and visit, and it was clear that they were just ravenous. They were incredibly hungry. And this was pre-COVID. And I would ask, what did you have to eat since you were here yesterday? And had to shoot baskets with a senator. And they'd look at you and say, well, I had a Milky Way. And so that's what we're dealing with in America right now. And why what you're doing, Senator Stabenow, with these programs is so incredibly important, because when we have our priorities straight, kids who are eligible for free or reduced cost meals would be able to get that food. And I know that my colleague from Michigan has worked hard to make sure that those meals include more fresh fruits and vegetables, because I've heard her talk about it, and that she is trying to reach out to so many communities where often, and Senator Klobuchar talked about it, it's kind of a food desert. So if you don't have the program Senator Stabenow is working for, you're just going to have a lot of people like those kids I met going hungry. And then I'm just going to close with one last thought that's important to us in our part of the country. The reality is that for many, many years, none of this was at all partisan. You know, we've all heard about Bob Dole and George McGovern in the history books, and they made their common cause with respect to agriculture, and they would round up urban legislators. We read about that. Various historical figures from the East. They weren't partisan. And in our part of the world, when we talk about the practical, common sense ideas that Senator Stabenow is offering for feeding hungry people, we just call them the Oregon Way. And people always ask, well, where is this Oregon Way, Ron? Where is this thing? Is it on the top of the Capitol Dome or Pioneer Square in Portland? I said, no, it's what we've tried to do for years. And I just want to thank you, Senator Stabenow, for bringing heart and a pragmatic approach to this. You saw how you just reached out to Senator Roberts. And by the way, I'm on the Intelligence Committee. I'm not going to give out anything classified. But Senator Roberts walked by and he said, we're going to get this worked out. We're going to figure this out. And so I'm going to end this on a little bit of an upbeat note, because that happened maybe only half an hour ago, and having watched my seatmate in action with Chairman Roberts often pull together agreements where nobody thought an agreement was possible. No pressure. Don't feel like we're singling you out, but just know that a lot of us are going to be your allies in this fight, because it's a fight for fairness, it's a fight for kids, it's a fight for families that are hurting, and it's a fight for an America where everybody gets a chance to get ahead.